This is the Baseline Facetime Podcast, and we've got another great episode coming at you right now. Let's go. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Baseline Facetime Podcast, episode 27, believe it or not. We're already at 27. And we've got a really special episode today, kind of drifting away from the basketball world here for an episode as we inch closer to the start of the NFL playoffs now, well under 48 hours until that kicks off on Saturday, coming at you live here on January 7th, Thursday night. NFL playoffs are starting up this Saturday, and so we're going to get started with that. We've got a special guest joining us, a huge football fan, and I know he's dying for these NFL playoffs to get going. A good friend of mine for I don't even know how many years, but he might know better than I do. But this is Justin McCord. Justin, say what's up.
Oh, thanks, Troy. Thank you for having me on today. I appreciate it. And oh yeah, we've been friends for quite a while. I could say at least definitely since middle school, and maybe even a little bit past that in the elementary school days.
Yeah, it's for sure possible, and we're ready to jump in on some NFL news. A couple things before we get into the playoffs. What we're going to do, we'll just give some predictions. We'll give some keys to these weekend's games. And, again, just looking forward to it. I know you are. How you've been keeping up with the NFL a lot this year. So who's your team? I mean, I know your team, but tell the people who your team is and what you're just looking forward to most.
Alrighty, yeah. Well, anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge Baltimore Ravens fan. Baltimore over everything. I've been a Baltimore fan for most of my life and my childhood growing up, and really excited this year to see how this new, 7 teams for each conference playoff scenario goes, especially learning about that first round positioning. Talking to you earlier today on the phone about that and what goes on with that was really cool to see how that, might play out for the playoffs this season. So just very eager to see how my boys do, obviously, this weekend coming up against Tennessee, and for the rest of the playoffs to pan out, see how it goes.
That's a revenge game for you guys, and I know we'll get to it, but I know you got to be thinking about what happened last year.
Yeah, definitely think about that a lot.
There you go. So I don't know if you saw today, my team in particular. I'm going to try and hold back tears here for a moment, but again to the fans out there that are listening and watching, whatever you do, the Baseline Facetime Podcast is changing it up this episode. So if you're not a football fan, you can head out because that's what this episode is going to be about. And I guess the Baseline Facetime Podcast has more range than maybe some of you thought. And so here we go with Justin McCord joining the show. But my team, the Houston Texans, as you know. Elite quarterback Deshaun Watson, really incredibly rough season for the Texans as a franchise. Deshaun put up career numbers, led the league in passing yards this year, and in other statistical categories he was near the top. But there were rumors swirling around today. Adam Schefter didn't tweet it. Let's not go that far, but some higher ups got word that Deshaun was possibly having conversations with teammates and things about leaving, about requesting a trade from the Houston Texans. Just wanted your thoughts, as a big NFL guy, on Deshaun and on, these rumors going around today.
Yeah, I did see a few things about that. I also saw former teammate Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, commented on that a little bit, saying where he would think that he would have a good fit for Deshaun going in the future. But the correct answer for me, honestly, is I think you stay with Houston. It might be a little bit of a learning process and a little bit of a rebuild, but the team on paper is really good. So it's just sad to see how this season turned out. And I mean, like you were saying, his stats this year for being one of the top quarterbacks in the league is just, it's crazy to think that you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league and your team doesn't make it to the playoffs is kind of crazy. But still, I don't want to see him go anywhere because I think he has a good fit for Houston. And I'm a huge fan of any player that whoever they get drafted to, stay to that team and be loyal to that organization. Obviously players like Ray Lewis, who was drafted to us way back when and, played his whole career for Baltimore. I think that's, a really cool thing to do for a player.
Absolutely. And I'm right there with you. I would love for Deshaun to stick it out in Houston for the remainder of his career. I mean, he's still a young guy, 24, 25. Um, he's just one of those guys. And, to me, it doesn't matter who's on the Texans team. Anytime Deshaun's out there, you have a chance to win the game because he's on your team. He's that
Oh
special.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
I think he's one of those guys, at least to me, I think you don't foresee him finishing his career without winning a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He just seems like one of those guys that's going to get at least one. And so we'll see what happens with him, but it's just been a mess with the Texans lately. I mean, they don't have a draft pick, I don't think, until the third round this year because, Bill O'Brien just messed up a lot of things. I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of him letting go of the bet. I mean, well,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
depends on who
Say
you
it.
ask.
Say
The
it. You're
the
asking
best
me.
NFL receiver in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, you get rid of him, for a bag of chips and some Pringles. I thought that was a little silly, but I think it was really a big statement for Deshaun to have such as great as a season as he did this year without his number one
Yeah.
option in DeAndre Hopkins. That just shows you how much volume Deshaun has as a quarterback without, his number one target.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, they had decent wideouts, but a lot of them struggled with injuries. Toward the end of the season, he was throwing to guys that were straight up off the practice squad. I mean, it was getting rough, and he was still producing at a high level. One other note, just on the Texans, before we move on to teams that are actually relevant right now. Yeah. So when you think about the last 360 some odd days, maybe the last calendar year for the Houston Texans. So they get a come from behind victory in the wild card round of the playoffs over the Bills last year. They were down 13-0 or 14-0 at halftime. They came back and won. Deshaun had a great game. Then the very next week, they are up 21, maybe 24. I've erased it from memory. Can
I'll
anyone
never I'll
remember?
never
On the
forget that
Kansas
playoff
City
game.
Chiefs. They're up 3+ touchdowns. Mistakes were made. Chiefs came back and beat them. It wasn't even close. Finish. Amazing
What's
turnaround for
funny
the
about
Kansas City
that
Chiefs.
game is that I was watching that game during the playoffs last year, and I had almost turned off the TV after halftime, seeing the Texans
Yeah.
winning by that much, and I'm glad I didn't. I mean, obviously not for any Texans fans and you and it, but I mean, it was still just a great game.
Yeah. Yep. And then so that's about a year ago, during the playoffs. Then the DeAndre Hopkins, and then they go out and win 4 games this year, losing about 7 or 8 of them by a touchdown or less. I mean, just a disaster year. They lose their coach slash GM. It's just been a mess, and so we'll see what this year holds. Hopefully, I hope Deshaun is on the team. But even if he's, again, it's a stretch for me to even say this, but even if he's gone, I would feel happy for him in a sense if he can go somewhere and be around a team that's going to help him win. And it's just, again, a lot has transpired in the last year. The Texans were an 11-win team last year, and then they turned to this, and it's just all, it's just not looking great. But on to the playoffs. So again, as you noted, we've got a 7-team playoff representing each conference, AFC, NFC this year. They're calling it Super Wild Card Weekend, as there'll be 3 games from each conference rather than 2, with a total of 6. Going on, spanning from January 9th to 10th, that Saturday, Sunday, here coming up. So let's just talk about these wild card games and maybe some keys to the game. And we'll start with your boys. I know you're dying to give me something. So the Ravens are matching up with the Titans Sunday at 1:00. What's your key to that one if the Ravens are going to pull off an upset? Can we call it an upset? Would that be fair?
You could call it an upset. I mean, as well as the Texans have been playing as of late, and what they did to us in the playoffs last year, basically embarrassing us with their running game. But the keys that I have for this game is that Baltimore this year, during the offseason, before the season had started, made some serious acquisitions. Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe from Denver, who has been a complete problem this year to offenses in the league. And then you have a healthy Michael Williams, who's back from being injured. So that's our key to stopping the Titans, is if you stop Derrick Henry, you stop the run game, you eliminate the fact of that play action ability, and you force Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans to be a pass-first offensive team, when that's the exact opposite of what they are. And I would say the key for us on offense to winning this game, not making silly decisions. Our receivers have to catch the ball. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. and just get Lamar started going early. And the cool thing is I saw the stat the other day. Lamar, ever since he got back from COVID, when he couldn't play against the Steelers, when RG3 played instead of him, ever since he had came back, he had I could be wrong. He hasn't lost a game, and he's only thrown like 2 interceptions, and he's thrown like 11 or 12 touchdown passes.
Wow.
And I mean, the way he's looking right now, I think that we have a very serious chance of beating Tennessee this weekend.
Yeah, and I think actually they might be favored out in Vegas in that one. So they're both 11-5 this year. That's a good one. 1:00 on Sunday. I know where you'll be. And I agree. I think just again a year ago, around this time with what the Titans were able to do, and that was really a surprise then. It would not be a surprise now if obviously with Derrick Henry going over 2,000 yards this year,
Right.
they shut him down, and you put it in Tannehill's hands. You got to like your chances in that one.
Our last time playing them, the last time we played them in the regular season, sorry, my computer made a noise. The last time we played them in the regular season, I saw the stat where I was watching the game too. We held Derrick Henry to like 39, 40-something yards in the first 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, he ran for like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, it's just stopping Derrick Henry is beating the Tennessee Titans.
Yep, and doing it for 4 quarters. That's the key. I agree with that one. And we'll move on to 2 other teams that I don't think you like too much in your division. The Browns and the Steelers are Sunday night game, the last game of Wild Card Weekend. That should be a good one. Browns are back in the playoffs. I mean, we were like 5 years old when that was a thing.
Yeah.
6, something like that.
They almost had a chance of not making it.
They did. I know, and they beat the Steelers in Week 17, which is interesting because they're playing this week. I don't think the Steelers were trying too much, but my key to that one is Baker Mayfield. So you got on the other side, you got Ben Roethlisberger, who's been there, done that for year after year after year. This is Baker's first playoff appearance. Anyone on the Browns that has started their career with the Browns, that's their first playoff appearance. And in 2 matchups with the Steelers this year, so you got the one in Week 17 where they were able to squeak out a W. October 18th they met, and the Steelers beat them 38-7. And Baker threw 2 picks. He completed 10 passes for 100 yards. So if he does that, I think we know who's going to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be close. So I think Baker's the key. If Baker can come out and lead this team and be the fiery guy that he is, and the guy that a lot of people love, a lot of people hate, if he can, complete passes and manage the game well and get that running game going too, I think that they've got a chance. But it's going to ride on the shoulders of Baker. I mean, we know he can have games where he goes out and throws 2, 3, 4 picks. He threw 4 picks against the Titans this year. 4 touchdowns. He threw 3 picks in a game at one point this year, I believe. But, if he's going to be that guy that he was against the Titans, then they've got a chance. If he's going to be the guy that came out in the first Steelers matchup of this year, not going to look too good for them. Any other thought on that game for you?
Yeah, I would say just the only 2, there are 2 things, but they're one position. The 2 things that are a big key for Cleveland is you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who they have to utilize if they want to win this game.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, the last one in the AFC, you can take it away. Indianapolis Colts and the Buffalo Bills. Colts are the 7 seed, so they're that lucky team that got in this weird year. And the mighty Buffalo Bills coming in with the 2 seed. Haven't won a playoff game in I forget how many years.
It's definitely been a while. It's going to be a good matchup. Most people probably have Buffalo favored by a big margin. But don't sleep on Indianapolis. They got a really scrappy defense. Phillip Rivers is an elite. He's a little older now, but he's an elite quarterback. I mean, you can't take that away from the guy. I mean, he's played 16, 17, however many years, and the guy's he's a born winner. He has that. I don't know if you've ever seen his mic'd up or anything like that, but the dude just talks straight trash, man. He just loves the game.
Yep.
But I'd say the keys for both teams here is Indianapolis needs to get going and get going fast. They can't have 3-and-outs and punt the ball, especially not giving the ball to a tough offense like Buffalo, who can score 50 on you if you don't watch out. And then for Buffalo, I would say they just have to make sure that on defense they're fundamentally set, because if you sleep on Indianapolis, they have a few players that, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., Jordan Wilkins. They have a few good players on that offense that can, get the game going in the way they need it to go. And I think Buffalo's going to walk away with the win in this matchup, though.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one. Let's preview the last few in the NFC, and then we'll get some predictions rolling. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington Football Team coming out of the NFC least at 7-9. I don't see Tom Brady losing to a 7-9 team. The one thing to note, obviously, and I think Bruce Arians had mentioned it this week, is that this team is like 4-1 or 5-1 with Alex Smith leading the way. So that's something to look for. I mean, I think one key, obviously, Tom Brady at the age of 43, he's not mobile. If the Washington Football Team can get any pressure on them and, eliminate you got Chase Young and some other guys. I mean, if they can get to Brady, get him down somehow. I mean, that could make something interesting, I guess, if you can limit what the Buccaneers are able to do on the offensive end. They got a lot of talent on that side of the ball. But if you get to Brady and force him, make him uncomfortable, if that's even possible, but if you give Brady all day to throw back there, it's not going to be pretty. And the Washington Football Team will be heading home 7-10 on the year. We got some good ones, though, at the bottom of that bracket. So the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, 6-3, same division. So they've met twice this year. While you're talking about that one, I'm going to look up what they've done against each other this year.
All right. Yeah, and I just wanted to add one thing on that football, and, I'm not used to calling them the football team in the Bucs game, is that, like you said, if they can force pressure on Brady, and get to him often and quickly, which I think they can, their defense is amazing this year. And I want to say that, their last 5 games, Washington has won 4 out of the last 5 games, or 5 out of the last 5 games. And they were the first team to beat the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers this year. So, but anyways, the Seahawks and the Rams, is it? Yeah, the Seahawks and the Rams.
So they split this year. Both games like in the 20s, not too high scoring. They each won on their home turf this year, and the Seahawks are at home. No 12th man out there in Seattle, but nonetheless, they are at home for this one.
Yeah, and I don't know 100% if Jared Goff is playing. I know he broke his thumb or something, and he didn't play last week. So if he's not playing and they're playing that quarterback, this is wrong for me not even knowing the poor guy's name, but he played last week against the Cardinals, and I think they beat the Cardinals to get into the playoffs.
Sean Walford.
Yep, Sean Walford. The fact that they beat a good Cardinals team to get into the playoffs, that says something right there. Especially without Jared Goff, who had been all the way to the Super Bowl one time, not too long ago. That's pretty good for them to do that without their quarterback. But I think I got Seattle taking this one all the way. They're just a better team. They're more experienced when it comes to playoffs, because I feel like they've been in the playoff situation more than the Rams have. And Russell Wilson is he's just out of this world, man. There's something about him that when you put, like you said about Deshaun earlier, and you put him on the field, and you could have middle school wide receivers playing out there for him, and he'll still throw 4 or 5 touchdowns in a game, and it's crazy how good he is, and he's fast too. For being as older as he's getting, he's still very mobile in the pocket.
Yep, that's a good point. We'll see. I mean, the Goff thing is big. He's listed as questionable. But as you noted, he didn't play last week. We'll see how much that's affecting him. The one thing that's in the Rams' favor, I think, is just the fact that you noted, they were kind of in playoff mode last week. If you're a team that if you're a team that goes into week 17, you need a win. I mean, you're in playoff mode already, and so they might have an early start on Seattle. Maybe that could help them.
Oh
In
yeah,
that
and the
situation.
team's got to be backing up Wolford, because the fact that he wanted to get him in, they're definitely all on board with that guy. I'd like to see them win, just because it would be the underdog story with the Wolford guy. That'd be a really cool scenario, but I don't see it happening.
All right, and then the last one, the Chicago Bears and the Saints, the 2 seeds, Sunday afternoon game, 4:30.
The Bears.
The Bears are going home. I just don't see it happening. Drew Brees in the first round. I mean, I guess he's gotten beat there before. I don't really even know. This is a basketball show, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are any locks in that wild card weekend, but I might be, if I were to put money on one team that I saw definitely winning, it would probably be either Tampa or the Saints. I just like the Saints' chances. I don't really know a whole lot about the Bears this year. I guess defensively, have they played well defensively?
To a point. They had beaten Tampa Bay earlier on in the season. And they still have Khalil Mack. And other than that, sadly, I don't know any of the other defensive players on their team.
Yeah, I mean, they went 8-8. They made the playoffs 8-8. Saints were 12-4. Kind of reminds you of the year that the Saints were. I don't know what they were that year, 13-3, and the Seahawks were 7-9, beast mode with that run. It kind of has that kind of vibe to it in terms of an upset kind of thing. They have met this year. The Saints beat them by 3 way back in overtime.
Yeah, I think I had watched that game.
And Nick Foles was playing then, about midway through the season, it looks like. So, who knows? And that was at home, so the Saints were able to take him on the road. Saints are at home this time in the Dome, so we'll see what happens there. But now, as our special guest and resident, whatever you want to say, NFL expert, let's just run through. We'll let you go all the way to the Super Bowl. All right, so I'll name the games. You want to start in the AFC?
Let's start in the not football conference.
All right.
I just think it's
that's the tough one for me.
And I want to give a shout out to an organization and a team that worked their butt off through adversity, and it is a shame to see that a 10-6 Miami Dolphins team didn't make it to the playoffs, but a 7-9 and an 8-8 team made it to the playoffs.
I see why you're ragging now. Okay. On the NFC. All right, so let's start in the NFC wild card weekend. 3 games there. So we got the Bucks and the Washington football team, who is, by the way, as crazy as it is, they're the home team in this game.
So Washington is the home team in this game?
Yep, because they
crazy.
won the division.
Well, most of my friends around this area are huge Washington fans. My grandfather is a huge Washington fan, so I'm pulling for the Washington football team, but I don't see it really happening. But I hope it does. Okay. But then again, I also hope it doesn't, because I'd like to see Brady be the only quarterback to ever host a Super Bowl at his home field. But I don't think that's going to happen anyway.
There you go. Okay. So you're taking the Bucks in that one.
Yep, taking the Bucks. But I'd like to see Washington win. But the Bucks are going to pull it out.
All right, and then L.A. Rams and the Seahawks.
I got the Hawks winning that one.
All right, and then the Bears and the Saints.
Well, Alec, our buddy Alec, isn't going to be too happy with me saying this one.
No, he's not.
But I got a no-brainer in the New Orleans Saints taking this one.
All right. So you're pretty chalk right now. Just saying. one road team winning, but that's over the football team. All right, next round is an interesting matchup. I promise you, I will be tuned into this one if it happens, and that is the Green Bay Packers hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
What a game! What a game that'll be!
Game.
The battle of the 12s, Rodgers versus Brady. I mean, let alone battle of the top 5 quarterback or top 10 NFL quarterbacks of all time, in Rodgers and Brady. It's hard for me to pick either team in this one, but with the first round bye and the way Aaron has played this season, I'm going Green Bay over Tampa Bay in the second round.
All right, Green Bay over Tampa Bay. What do you think? Definitely a one-score game in that one?
I'm thinking it could be, as close as a one-score game. It could even be, maybe a 10-point game at the most.
10-point game. Okay, all right. So Green Bay, emphasis on the bye, emphasis on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, is he the MVP favorite right now?
I would give him the MVP after the year and the numbers he's put up.
I think he is. I don't know. I mean, well, there's Derrick Henry. Who else is there?
I want to say I know Russell Wilson was in the talk for a while, but then he ended up messing that up a little bit. I'll tell you another guy who kind of deserves it is Josh Allen from Buffalo. He's had a heck of a season.
He has. He's been in the conversation. He'll probably finish well within the top 10, maybe top 5. But yeah, that's okay. So the Packers moving on to the NFC Championship game where they will play. According to J-Max bracket here, we got the Seattle Seahawks and the New Orleans Saints. Another tough one. I mean, think about the quarterback play in those 2 games: Rodgers, Brady, and Russell Wilson and Breeze. Who you got?
Like I said earlier, when I made Alec mad, I think I'm gonna make Skyler mad. I think I'm gonna have the Saints beating the Seahawks, and it's gonna be New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Conference Championship.
Wow. And have we had the pleasure of having that matchup in the playoffs before? I don't think we have. I'd have to double check, but I remember there's always talks of we want to see Brady and Rodgers. We want to see Brady and Breeze or Rodgers and Breeze. I mean, and now we've, the way you're playing it out, and it's not too far out there, that's for sure, that we could see that. So who you got moving on to the Super Bowl out of those 2?
That's a tough one. That is a really tough one. That one's so tough you almost have to take a coin and flip it and just pick whichever one that you picked. But I think with that, like I said, that week 1 advantage of having a week off to prepare throughout the entire playoffs, especially being as cold as it is this time of the year. I'd like to see Drew Brees go out on a final note and go all the way, but I just don't see him doing it against people like Zadarius Smith and all the other key players that they have on that Green Bay defense. And what's the cornerback that they have? Not Tre'Davious White. Who's
Alexander?
Yep, that's his name for the Green Bay Packers cornerback. So, man, I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm actually gonna go with an upset. I'm gonna say the New Orleans Saints beat the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship.
All right, there we go. So we got the Saints moving on to the Super Bowl, and like I said, I truly think the NFC is just tougher to pick. We'll see how you feel about that as you're about to predict the AFC. But I mean, those are some really talented quarterbacks out there in the NFC. Minus the Bears and minus the Rams.
How about the comeback story though for Alex Smith for Washington Football Team, man? What a great way to come back after basically destroying your leg and then make it to the playoffs. That's awesome for him and his family.
He's got comeback player of the year locked up.
Yeah, I hope so.
I mean, how could he not? Did you see that his wife made his leg brace or whatever you want to call it into a trophy?
Yeah, that was pretty neat. I also saw something on Instagram somebody had posted, excuse me, where it said, NFL's Comeback Player of the Year, and in one corner was a picture of Alex Smith. The second corner was a picture of Alex Smith. The third and the fourth corner were both Alex Smith. So I hope he gets that one this year.
Yeah, absolutely, deservingly so. Major, major shout out to Alex Smith. I mean, truly remarkable for the Washington football team. All right, you ready for the AFC?
Oh, yeah.
You're doing good. You're doing good. You're halfway. So we got the Ravens and the Titans. Your boys. We're starting there. Sunday, 1 o'clock. Who is moving on?
Well, I think we know the answer to this one. It would be.
I think we know.
I think it would throw everyone for a turn if I was like, well, I think Tennessee's gonna pull it out this weekend. But that's definitely not the case. I got my boys. This is gonna sound crazy because people are gonna be like, well, he's a huge Ravens fan. That's why he's saying this. But I hope that we embarrass them this weekend. I have Baltimore winning this one, 28-14, and moving on to the second round. Baltimore wins over Tennessee.
There you go. All right, 28-14. All right, give me a number of rushing yards that Derrick Henry is going to have in this game. What's it going to be?
Well, if we can keep him, I say if we can keep him under 80. If we can keep him, under 100.
If you keep him under 80, you're going to win by 30.
Yeah,
he's going to get the ball 45 times.
Yeah, that is true. If we can keep him under 100, 120, that'd be ideally. But like you said, he's going to get the ball more than Ryan Tannehill throws it. So
yeah, you're right. And it depends on if Baltimore can jump out and then they're forced to throw it in the second half.
Right.
He might be limited in that way. But I think if you hold him under 100, that's the number I was thinking. If you hold him under 100, you're going to be looking good because that means if you got to figure he's getting it at least 25 times, and if he's under 100, that means he's under 4 yards a carry, which would be a strong showing for that Baltimore defense. All right, now the matchup I'm really intrigued to hear you pick. No, you can't pick a tie. It doesn't end like that in the playoffs. So the Browns and the Steelers, your divisional rivals, who you got Sunday night?
Well, if I said the Pittsburgh Steelers, my dad would probably disown me. So I really hope the Browns pull it off and that they can win. But like you said earlier when we were talking about this, Big Ben Roethlisberger, he's been in these moments more than any other player, well, other than Tom Brady. He's been in this moment way many more times than Baker's even dreamt about being in this moment. So, Dad, you're going to hate me for saying this, but Pittsburgh's walking away with the win this weekend. I don't like saying it, but Pittsburgh's going to win this weekend.
It doesn't even sound good.
It makes me feel weird saying it.
So the Steelers moving on, but you're not playing for what you want. We can tell that.
Yep.
You're playing for what you think is going to happen. And you got the Steelers moving on in that one. Last one in the AFC Super Wildcard Weekend. The first one that's kicking it off Saturday afternoon. And we got a weekend full of football. It's going to be fun. The Colts and the Buffalo Bills. Who you got?
That is going to be a good one. I can't wait to watch that one. Everyone has Buffalo winning this one probably by a long shot. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in agreement with them. But like I was saying about Breeze in the NFC, seeing him ride out on the final hurrah in his final season, because this could be potentially Phillip Rivers' last season in the NFL, and he is a local NC State alumni, so I hate saying it because I don't think it's going to happen, but I want Indianapolis to win, but Buffalo is going to pull out with the victory for sure.
Okay, so you're taking the Bills in that one. All right, so that means we've got the Chiefs and the Ravens up in the top of that bracket. So actually, in both AFC and NFC, you picked 1, 2, 3, and 5 seeding wise. And so, who you got? Chiefs and the Ravens.
This is a tough one because every time we've ever played the Kansas City Chiefs, we typically lose, but it's always been a close one. We played them week 3 this year. Looking at the thing now, we lost them 34-20. Man, this is tough. Kansas City
Remember that one?
Yeah, that one stung. Kansas City's such a good team, man. Offensively, they're freaking phenomenal. They have so many studs. I mean, shout out to Travis Kelce for like leading the league in yards for receiving yards when he's a freaking tight end. Like that's, I know I don't know if he finished the season leading the league, but I know at one point he was leading the league. And like I said, shout out again to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, he came in second just behind Stephon
That's
Diggs.
that's crazy. That's
That is
awesome.
insane.
But yeah, I got us getting a revenge game on Kansas City and pulling up the biggest upset in the playoffs this year.
Woo! All right, now we're talking. All
And I
right.
was also looking at our record this year for on the road because I know we play Tennessee on the road and we'd obviously play Kansas City on the road. And it's looking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of the 8 games that we played on the road this year, we won 6 out of 8.
Okay.
So on the road, we're actually not too bad. So hopefully,
Well, there you go. We'll see. Hey, that's the round in that divisional round where the Texans had that big lead. So hopefully you can get out to one and hold it, unlike my guys did. So Ravens moving on to the AFC Championship game. Who could have guessed?
yeah, right. The biggest upset.
But
The biggest
hey,
upset.
that's good. That's good. That's why we're doing it. What's the next one? So we got the Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. That game would be played in Buffalo. Whew,
That's
that'd be a
gonna.
good one.
That would be a good game for sure. I know Pittsburgh wants to get their revenge for losing to them not too long ago in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, well, I know if I had to choose, I obviously am going to choose Buffalo over Pittsburgh. But what a better way to write it to have Baltimore versus Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship game. I mean, how cool would that be?
That would be
Division
cool.
rivals, one-on-one, mano-a-mano, to see who goes to the Super Bowl. The present versus the past, Lamar versus Ben. It would be storytelling, especially if we beat Kansas City. But I got Buffalo going
Okay.
to the championship.
Okay, yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I think that would be pretty sweet. I mean, that would. Oof, man, they hate each other.
Oh gosh,
And the Steelers and the Ravens in the AFC Championship game would be spectacular. We'll see if that can be something that happens. But instead, you've got the two running quarterbacks, two young guns, with the biggest game of their career potentially. To date would be the Baltimore Ravens led by Lamar Jackson and the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. And that game would be played in Buffalo still. So Buffalo, without having to go to Kansas City, would stay at home all throughout the playoffs. Who you got? Your boys? Are they going to do it?
oh yeah. That's a lot of people are going to doubt because Lamar has yet to win a playoff game, and
Yeah.
I, being a Ravens fan, I definitely realize that. But like I said earlier, with his stats from after post COVID, he's been on fire. So I think our key, if we made it to that point, if we played Buffalo in the championship game, the key to that one is putting some pressure on Josh Allen and making them do things differently than what they do now because they're such a good offensively sound team. They got studs on all sides of the ball. But, Ravens till I die, so I got Baltimore pulling off the second biggest upset in the playoffs and winning the AFC Championship and going back to the Super Bowl.
There you go. So beating down the Buffalo Bills. And to your point, I think with that 13-3 Josh Allen-led offense, you got to make them uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Again, whether that's the Steelers, whether that's the Colts in the first round, whether that's the Chiefs, whether that's the Ravens, you got to make him uncomfortable. I mean, he's still a young guy. He can make mistakes. You got to contain his legs, too.
The Ravens defense, and I don't want to mispronounce his name, being is that we're on a podcast talking about football, but our defensive coordinator, I want to say his name is like Wink Martindale. I could be pronouncing it wrong,
Okay, I'm not sure.
but he has so many different packages for our blitz packages where we'll bring, we'll make it look like we're bringing an all-out blitz, and the next thing you know, we have four people dropping back in coverage and stuff like that. That's key to putting pressure on Allen and
Yeah.
having those packages where you blitz all out and make him throw it fast or get some pressure and actually get a couple hits on him. That's key to beating the Buffalo Bills. For even if it's my team or like you said, even if it's Pittsburgh or if it's Indianapolis, in the wild card.
Yep, I think that's key. Even with all the running quarterbacks that or the mobile quarterbacks potentially that the Ravens could see, from Tannehill to Mahomes to Josh Allen. If you can, anything you can disguise, anything you can make happen, get them flustered, is definitely helpful. So, Super Bowl, here we go. You've got Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens against the New Orleans Saints. Who you got and why? And give me a score.
We got the Baltimore Ravens with the former MVP, Lamar Jackson, going up against, without a doubt, one of the best quarterbacks to ever lace up a pair of cleats, Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. If this was to happen, this would be the most action-packed, and no pun intended, action Jackson, Lamar versus Drew. This would be an offensive game for sure. Obviously, I'd want my boys to pull out with the victory, but it wouldn't hurt to see Lamar make it all the way there and come up that close, and come short to it, and see Drew Brees, walk away into the sunset with a Super Bowl ring and retiring. Because not only would that put a lot of, pressure on Lamar for the next season to, hey, we made it all the way to the Super Bowl, it's time to go there and actually get the win. But I don't want that to happen, so I'm going Baltimore beating the New Orleans Saints in the Super Bowl, and the final score being 42-35.
42-35. Touchdown City. You were lying. I can see that being a lot of offense too. So the Baltimore Ravens making it all the way. Man, I mean, we're going to have you back on the show regardless, but if that happens, we're going to have you back on the show, and we're going to have to start putting some money on some stuff or something. I don't know. If that happens, that'd be sweet. And sweet for you, for sure. But I think one thing to note, just on the Ravens in general, and obviously their struggles in the playoffs last year, all this being said means that you are trusting in the fact that they have figured it out. Because there's a difference between winning in the regular season, winning in the playoffs, and winning with Lamar Jackson, and, if his legs aren't working, getting his arm working, and vice versa. Obviously, you're thinking that they're going to figure that out this year in the playoffs.
Yep, and also shout out to Lamar for being the first quarterback in NFL history to ever go back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons back-to-back. So congrats to the former MVP, Lamar Jackson. That's a crazy stat to have, and it's awesome that you're our quarterback, and, good job, man.
There you go. Major shout-out to Lamar Jackson. Wow, there you have it, folks. 42-35 Baltimore Ravens over the New Orleans Saints in J-Max Super Bowl prediction for 2021. I'm going to give a quick one real quick. Not going to run through the whole playoffs, but just for the fun, and I'm literally thinking of this just right now, so don't judge me too hard. I'm going to take the two cold cities, and we're going to put them in Tampa Bay for the 2021 Super Bowl. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills against the Green Bay Packers.
Whoa.
Yep.
That would be, hey, and if mine didn't happen, that would be a heck of a game too, man. I wouldn't mind seeing both of those guys battle it out.
Yep, and I want to see again, like the Rodgers Brady matchup and then a Rodgers Breeze matchup, just as you had predicted in the NFC Championship game. I think that would be awesome. I have them moving on, and then the Buffalo Bills, and I'm struggling with who I want to say I want to take. I think I'm going to take, just because, again, they don't have to play the first week, so if the Buffalo Bills get bounced first week, I still got one team alive. I'm going to take the Packers to win it all. I'm going to take Rodgers to get his second Super Bowl ring and really just establish his name even more, possibly the MVP this year. He'd probably be the Super Bowl MVP if they're able to get it done. He's got weapons. He's got a good team this year. They're the one seed out of the strong NFC. So I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers in that one.
I got 4 words for that game if it happens. Okay. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones.
There you go.
Those are his key. Those are his key targets right there, man.
Those dudes are something else. They are something spectacular. Anything else, NFL, whatever you want to throw out there, another fun fact, something, I don't know. What else you got?
I wouldn't mind giving a shout out to the head coach of the New York Giants, Joe Judge. I saw a video on what he had posted about what Doug Peterson and the Philadelphia Eagles organization did last week in the regular season.
Kind of taking their foot off the gas in that one.
Yeah, and basically, taking out Jalen Hurts and all the starters who worked their butt off all season, even though they weren't in playoff contention, still to disrespect the players like that, that's just not right. So for Joe Judge to say that, if the roles were reversed and they were in that situation, he said that he would never pull his teammates, or pull his team out of that situation. So
okay,
just a little
interesting. That's a good little shout out there. And the Philadelphia has been scrutinized this year. Not the first time the Philadelphia team has been scrutinized for tanking. Shout to the formerly terrible Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah. I don't understand how you go from Super Bowl, 2 years ago? 3 years? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
How do you go from a Super Bowl team to what was their record? 4-12-1?
Yep, something 4-11-1. Yeah. Nuts. That's the weird thing about the NFL. It's hard to maintain.
Yeah.
It just is. Unless you're, that's why the Patriots were so amazing. No matter what you think about them.
I don't think anybody had the Miami Dolphins being 10-6 this year.
Yeah, very true. You never know. The NFL's a wild ride, and we get to enjoy the best part of that coming up this weekend, Wild Card Weekend. 6 games, all day Saturday, all day Sunday.
Jam-packed, football-filled weekend. Oh, man, it's going to be great.
It's going to be good. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I hope you'll join us again.
Oh, yeah, man. It was
pretty dope.
It was a pleasure being on here, man. Thank you again for inviting me. And once again, like to say thanks, and hope to do it again next time.
Absolutely. You got it. You're an official baseliner now. And, special co-guest, whatever you want to call it, host. And we'll definitely have you on again, whether that's NFL, whether that's NBA. We'll get back at it.
Right on, brother. Well, thanks.
All right, brother. I'll see you. Peace.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Take it easy. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Baseline Facetime Podcast. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.